Join us, Alix
and Colleen,
self-proclaimed fake it till you make it experts, as we navigate the highs and lows of being a woman and how the pressure and overwhelm of trying to do it all often leads to feeling like an imposter in our own lives.
On today's episode, we were chatting with Chanelle Jefferson, artist and energy, mind, and emotions practitioner, who shares her insight on overcoming self-doubt for not only herself, but for others through counseling, tailored experiences, and her inspired approach to art.
Hi, Alix.
Hi, Colleen.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Alix,
Yes.
when I was in your house the other day, you have a ton of art on your wall.
It's true.
Like they're covered. I have some big pieces, but not nearly the quantity of pieces that you have.
Well, to be fair, a lot of them are my husband's poems that are framed.
And they're beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah.
He works with Gasbro Press each year to get letterpress copies of one poem, and then he prints them. They're called broadsides. He gives them away as gifts and sells them. And we have one of each one on our walls, and he has like, I don't know, 30 of them now. So
Yeah,
we're doing
they're
it forever.
gorgeous. Oh, he sells them as well.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to end up getting one of those on my wall. They're beautiful.
Yeah, the Andrew at Gasbro Press does an amazing job.
Yeah. I remember when I feel like I first felt like I made it in this world when I bought my first piece of art, and that I was no longer like just sticking up HomeSense prints on my wall or posters or like it. And it meant a lot to me to put a piece of art up there. And I love collecting art. It says a lot about the person. And I like when I walk in your house, I see your personality, which I love.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great investment. It's very adult to collect art. It's very personal to what you like. I also have some HomeSense prints on my walls too, so no shame.
As do I. Yes, there's nothing
know.
better than a good HomeSense. I have some as well. Not yet.
But I think, yeah, I think it's a really nice way to express yourself and your interests. And I like to also collect some local prints when I can afford to, which is like fun too.
I like getting them when I'm away on vacation too. I
Mm.
love to get a piece of art from when I'm away. And I bring up art because this evening we have an artist with us, Chanelle Jefferson. So welcome to
Thank
the
you.
mic. So Chanelle's pieces are really spectacular.
Thank you.
They're beautiful. I love them. I went on her Instagram and I just kind of got lost in your art and your process. And it's just some gorgeous stuff there. Before we get into your art though, tell us how you became, because you're a full-time artist.
Yeah.
Yeah. So talk to me about your art and how you became a full-time artist.
A few years ago, I think it was probably 5 years ago. I did go to art school, but at the time I was making prints of tourist locations throughout Nova Scotia. I was selling little cards and little prints, and I would carry them to farmers markets throughout Nova Scotia. I barely ever made any money. I always just hoped to cover the cost of my table because that's how I thought you were supposed to be an artist. And I thought that was the only way to be an artist. It was to make prints and to figure out a way to sell them. And I had to be willing to admit that everything that I believed in and everything I thought about being an artist was not true, and be open to learning a new way in order to become a full-time artist. So I was working in kitchens most of my life. I was fired from every single job that I ever had.
You were not.
I was. I worked in a gift shop, and they fired me and told me that I would make a great boss for myself one day. Yeah, and just over the most random things. It was never like I broke rules or did anything significant, and I couldn't understand why things weren't working. And I truly believe that I just had a soulful lesson to learn, and that I wasn't meant, I had things to do before I would be able to work for somebody else. So I ended up on my journey of trying to figure this all out. At the beginning, I invested in a mentor, and I had absolutely no clue or business as to what I was doing. the investment in the program was more money than I had ever made. And I somehow found it in myself to take my money that I was supposed to pay for bills that month and put it in the program as my first payment. And at the time, everyone was like, what the hell are you doing? So over time, it was just like the money kept showing up. And at the beginning of the program, I was led through a process that allowed me to find a way of working that was actually true to myself. And I shared my trauma and stories through my work, and that kind of evolved. So when I start drawing on canvas, I start using blind contour drawing, which means I draw without looking at the paper. And it became a practice of meditation for me in processing everything that I had been through and through processing my emotions and just discovering who I was. So
Wow.
yeah. It just kind of evolved from there.
You dropped all your money on a coach.
I did. Yes.
I
It
don't think I've
clearly
ever,
paid off.
it paid off. I've
did.
never done that.
It was terrifying. I
So-
had no idea what was to come.
So you've not had to fire yourself yet.
No, I haven't. And then last year I worked with the same coach again. And this year I have moved into a different program and community. But I've always been, since the beginning, when I decided I was going to be a full-time artist, I've put myself in spaces where I was shown what was possible or what could be possible, even when I didn't believe it or see it myself.
Okay, so let's first start with why didn't you believe in yourself?
Yeah. I think as artists, we're always told that it can't be a sustainable job. I even had, in high school, I had a guidance counselor who would consistently ask me if I had changed my mind about going to art school yet, and if I had decided to do something. And she told me that I needed to have a backup plan. So in university, I also studied geology. That was, I mean, I love rocks, but it was not my decision. That was for her. So
Did you
even
believe that?
no, I finished. So I have a degree in fine arts and then a minor in environmental geology, as well as a minor in film photography. But I, throughout the way, I had met so many people who just kind of instilled the belief in me that it was not possible to sustain yourself comfortably. Yes, you can be a full-time artist, but you're not going to have enough money to feed yourself, or you have to work a certain way. And that was what I believed.
And I mean, that's been the thought forever.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember myself when my daughter left school to go into a creative field, and people were saying to me, you're going to let her quit university? You're going to this is her passion. This is what she wants to do. And if it works out great, if it doesn't work out great, but that is her journey and her thing to decide. But I remember at the time, and even me, when I went into graphic design, I had people saying to me, graphic designers are a dime a dozen. You're not going to make any money as a graphic designer. We're always trying to push young people to go into sciences or be a doctor or.
I think the creative journey is certainly a tougher one to make profitable. There's a lot more onus on the person to make that success. Whereas if you're going into a defined profession, there's sort of a clear course that you take and, you just move your way through it. So I think that's probably been the hesitation, because it's just a lot harder to make it a sustainable income. I think it's getting easier because I think, like you said, there's more communities, there's more coaches who are versed in how to build a business model that fits. But I don't think it's as quite of a point A to point B.
Yeah, probably not. And I mean, I think you're right that it is on the person. You've got to make it work,
Yeah.
you know.
There's no one there to kind of slap you on the wrist to say you need to get this done, or anyone to push you. You have to be really self-disciplined. You have to be able to push yourself and to keep going when things get difficult, because it's really easy to give up. And when you do things like, for example, a doctor, it's kind of like your path is planned out for you. You go to university, you know your next step. But in a creative journey, there are so many different ways that it could work. And you have to be willing to put yourself in all of these different avenues and figure out which one works for you and what feels true to yourself. And it requires a lot of inner work.
Yeah, it does. And speaking of the inner work, I mean, the podcast is about imposter syndrome. So as you're going through all of this process, where has imposter syndrome come into it for you?
I think at the beginning, and still often I ask myself the question, who am I a lot of the time? Like, who am I to be in the position that I am in, to recognize that my work is worth something when other people can't see that for themselves. But I mean, imposter syndrome is something we talk about at the beginning stages of our business. And then in all honesty, it's something we experience in every stage of business. And I'm so happy that I started to put myself in rooms with people who are incredibly successful in this industry, no matter how they got there. Because what I realized and learned was that they, at some point along the way, no matter who you are, you have felt like you didn't belong. And, I think there's a deeper root to that we can talk about, but also how refreshing is it to know that imposter syndrome isn't something that is to be worked through on a worksheet and like to overcome.
No, absolutely.
And it's really, I think it's really important to know that it's not something we have to overcome, in that it's a green light. It's something we learn to walk with. It's also our subconscious mind telling our conscious mind to put on the brakes when we're doing something in alignment with the person of who we're becoming. And, if you're feeling imposter syndrome, congratulations, because it's
probably an indication that you're growing.
Yeah,
You're
exactly.
growing, yeah.
And bravery isn't about like overcoming the fear. It's about learning to be so sold and solid in yourself about who you are and what you're doing that you learn to walk with the fear.
I like that.
I like that too. We had a filmmaker on here and she said that if she starts to feel the fear, that's when she knows it's like, oh, I'm on
Yeah.
the right path. I've got to go that way. Like I've got to lean into that fear because there's something on the other side of that. And same as when we went to see Michelle Obama. She had said, did you go? You didn't go see Michelle Obama. I went to see Michelle Obama and she had said the same thing, that without fear, you're not growing,
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
there is a lot to be said for that. So imposter syndrome, I mean, you're right. We all feel it. And you mentioned the roots of it. There's a lot of root causes for imposter syndrome. It could be the way you were raised. It could be your personality. It could be that, that leads into some of this stuff. What do you think some of the root causes for your imposter syndrome, if you want to go there?
My own.
Yeah.
Or generally.
Yeah.
I think oftentimes we don't feel enough because of what we've experienced as children. And it can be the smallest thing. It can be like Susie on the playground who said something to you this one time that seems so insignificant as an adult, but as a child, it had a massive impact on who you are and how you experience the world. For me personally, it was, I don't remember a lot of my childhood because I have blocked a lot of it out. I experienced a lot of trauma, and I'm able to talk about that now from a place of gratitude because of the life that I experienced because of it. But oftentimes, even my father would say to me, like, he had a very strict plan for me. And yes, he supported my creativity, but at the same time, he didn't believe in it. And I think having a parent who doesn't believe in you causes you to not believe in yourself.
100%.
Yeah, I mean, those are the people who are supposed to believe in you no matter what. So that's very unsettling for sure.
Yeah. And oftentimes their inability to believe in their children comes from their own parents, and it just gets passed down.
It's hard to break that cycle. So, good on you for really leaning into who you are and your creative self to discover. I mean, look at you, you're a full-time artist.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something that I sometimes forget to celebrate at this point, but because it feels natural to me now, but it's something that I never thought I would be able to do, especially comfortably. So
When you price your art now, Do you feel imposter syndrome or are you good with it? Are you like, whatever, this is,
At the beginning, I remember the first time I put a piece of artwork that wasn't like a tourist location on Instagram, and I had put a price on it. I think I had it for like $500, and I was sitting in the bathtub, and in like 5 minutes, someone reached out to me and they were like, I need to have this. And I almost shit my pants because I was like, I've been selling drawings for $5 or like struggling to sell $20 prints, and you're telling me that I can sell a $500 painting? And now I'm fortunate enough to be able to say that, like, I recently sold a $15,000 painting, and it's just
Incredible.
like, how willing are you to sit in the uncomfortable and move with it, like I had spoke about at the beginning, but to recognize that what you're doing isn't just artwork, but also what it does for other people. Because I'm not selling. A lot of people think that they're selling themselves when they're pricing their artwork, but it really has nothing to do with me and more to do about what this painting will do for the person and what they'll experience after.
Yeah, I like that. I think all creative people should try to price that way.
Yeah, because
so it's, oh wait, no, hang on. So it's the value you're bringing to others
Mhm.
more so than your value.
Yeah,
I like that.
because you're not something you can put a price on. Like, you're invaluable. It doesn't. I can't say that you're worth $15,000 or like $20. It's not you. You're a human being. And yes, we put all of our experiences and our education into a piece of artwork, but also when someone sits in front of an artwork, it does something for them. And what is that worth to that person?
Mm,
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I also think that's how, you and I should be pricing too. And technically is how I price for people. It's less about, what it takes out from me, but what value it provides to the
Mhm.
client.
for sure. And I mean, when you look at it too, you're right, there's a lot of education, there's a lot of knowledge that goes into you making that.
Mhm.
You're putting all of your skills into that piece. Serving up hot brews, refreshing cold drinks, lots of fresh baked goodies, and delicious lunch options. Visit the Mellow Mug in the heart of Larry Utech for dine-in, takeout, or drive-through service. Their spacious cafe offers a casual and inviting vibe that's perfect for everything from enjoying a good book, hanging with friends, or meeting a colleague. The Mellow Mug is your neighborhood spot for great coffee and delicious eats and sweets.
How do people typically find you?
Mainly at the beginning, it was Instagram. I started sharing my story online, and I realized that through being vulnerable, people connected with it. And I was like, whoa, hang on a second. I was really caught off guard by that. So mainly they were finding me through Instagram, and now I work with interior designers throughout the world. People word of mouth at this point, and I have a website as well.
Yeah, I love the interior designer part. I actually worked with another artist. I designed her website, and that was the same thing. She had a lot of connections with interior designers, which I think is such an interesting way to, show up everywhere.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I love that.
Okay, let's go to home sets. If somebody wanted to take one of your pieces, turn it into a print and sell it multiple times at home sets, you in?
No.
Ah,
Yeah, could have answered that.
I know, but answering it, asking it. Anyway.
Only because at this point, someone once said to me, I think it was Jessica Saran, who was my mentor at the time, but she had told me that there is a belief that as a creative person, when you have a download or idea, it is because someone in the world is asking for it or needing it. So if I have the download to create something, it's because there is a void for it somewhere. So it is meant for something or someone specifically, which I really like to honor with my work. Most of the time when people view it, it is an experience. They connect with it on a deeper level. They usually end up sharing very personal and vulnerable things with me. So I want to keep the integrity of the artwork, which is important.
Beautiful. So on top of being an artist, you are also a counselor.
Yes.
So
So
tell us a little bit about that.
I am an energy, mind, and emotions practitioner, which I'm also now the program is recognized and I'm certified with the National Board for Counselors or of counselors. But when people started to experience my artwork, they started sharing things with me that I at the time was not capable of properly holding. I didn't know how to support the people. They were coming to me, sharing things. I can still remember the first time someone had said to me, you know, my son just died 3 months ago, and this artwork reminds me so much of him and my experience with him, and I need to have it in my home. And people would come to me with these things, and I didn't know how to respond. Oftentimes in conversation, we deflect, or if someone says, you know, I really hate my job, instead of asking why, we say, oh, yeah, that's normal, or a lot of people hate their jobs. So I made it my mission to, one, learn how to better support people, but also how to ask better questions. And that kind of led me down the journey of becoming a practitioner, which allows me to work with people one-on-one now to get to the root of their belief system that was often created by trauma or psychosomatic illnesses, which are really incredible to witness and to see somebody move through. That can be like illnesses. Oftentimes, if we're carrying a lot of anger in our bodies, it'll show up with liver disease or issues with our liver. And there's just different, even allergies can be psychosomatic from an experience you had as a child. So working with people to get to the root of why and what it stems from. But oftentimes in therapy, we believe that people have to go back into the experience. So sometimes when you go to therapy, they will you'll lay on the couch, and they'll take you back to the exact room at the exact moment and the time when this traumatic incident or trauma in your life happened to you. And it is a really terrible place to build from and move from. So being an energy, mind, and emotions practitioner gave me the education to get to the root, but not re-enter the trauma. So I don't have to re-traumatize people in order to help them work through things. So that was a beautiful way for me to learn how to support people.
I like that. So you do counseling outside of your artwork as well.
Mainly through experiences, through retreats, through events, through community support. And then sometimes I will work with people one-on-one if they feel that they really need that extra support. Through my training, I guess I will call it, I had to work with many different people in order to become certified one-on-one. So I had to do a lot of practice sessions with people who were willing to entrust me with that, which was really beautiful. So I am able to work with people.
So you're holding space for an awful lot of people and a lot of their secrets and a lot of their fears and a lot of their traumas. How do you, at the end of the day, deal with what you're holding for people, the space you're holding for people?
So at the beginning of the day or before I step into any type of service, I'm always doing something, an exercise, meditation, or visualization to protect my own energy. And what I discovered is that a lot of people experience burnout who are healers or therapists because they believe that the information is coming from them. And I practice allowing my self-conscious or my subconscious and my mind to move to the back and allow myself to be a vessel. So the information is moving through me and not from me. And at the beginning, I was really worried about what if I didn't know what to say, or what if I triggered people? And I went to Mandy, who I was learning from, and I told her about this, and she said to me, it's because you're making it more about you than that. And at the time I was like, what do you mean? Like, okay, explain this to me. And she said, you know, who are you to be worried about? And I think this is imposter syndrome a bit as well. Like, who are you to be so worried about how you look or messing up a word or forgetting something, whatever it is, or to even be thinking about, one of the things after practice is to not be thinking about what to say next and to be fully present for the person. But who are you to stop that person from receiving what they need to receive in that moment and what I can be a vessel for? And I was like, oh, thank you for humbling me. I'm ready to do the work now. So it's really interesting to allow the energy to move through you. And at the end of the day, I often feel more energized than drained.
And do you find that this new path and the experience and the education has changed the way you view your art in any way?
Yes, I think at this point, I'm able to recognize that my art too is a service and not just an object.
And has your approach to how you create changed?
No, I think I just understand it better. It stayed mainly the same. I have a big connection to nature. And when I work on a commission with someone, I have always asked them about their story or their experience, but now I have a better idea of how to support them in that conversation. And again, to ask better questions, and then I create better art from that.
I love that.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think it's really awesome if somebody's commissioning you for a piece, you're really getting into the heart and soul of that person to help them build their piece through you.
And I think that's a different process than what most artists move into commission work with, because they'll often go look at the space, and I do look at the space, of course, and see where the painting will live and measure and all of that important logistic stuff. But I also take it a step further and oftentimes I don't even have to ask a question. It's showing up in my best energy, and which allows people to feel safe enough to then share with me, and I put that into the artwork.
What other inspiration do you use? You mentioned nature. What other things do you sort of tap into when you're...
Mainly my connection to nature. I was a perfectionist for a long time when I was creating paintings of tourist locations. Like, I even brought out the ruler at some points. And so when I found blind contour drawing in my first year of university, it was painstaking for me because I had to surrender so much. And so the process is if I'm drawing my hand, I'm only looking at my hand and not the paper. And if you look at the paper or the canvas, then your hand has to stop drawing. So sometimes you'll end up with like an extra finger or like a wonky shape, and that becomes part of the surrender and the artwork for me. And it's a way for myself to not get so caught up in what it looks like, because again, it's not necessarily about resembling something else or being exact. It's about the feeling, the emotion, the experience, the story.
That's cool.
It is cool. You mentioned perfectionist.
Yes.
So let's talk about your imposter syndrome type. Would you say you're a perfectionist, or do you fall into one of the other categories?
I'd say at the beginning, it was definitely perfectionist. The need to be perfect at home, in my home setting, if things weren't perfect, that's when I felt that it wasn't safe, or when things would happen that weren't safe, when my father would be abusive or whatever occurred, I thought it was because things weren't exact. So I always made it my job and mission as a child to be the peacekeeper and make sure like everything was in a row so that nobody was upset and that everybody was safe. That was my role. And I had to, as I got older, learn that just because things weren't perfect didn't mean it was unsafe.
No, I mean, because it's not your job to control somebody else's feelings and emotions, you know?
Yeah. So through blind contour drawing, I think that's when I really began to learn surrender to everything. Now it's like, how can I surrender in every part of life? Usually when things go awry, we will try to control it. But for me, there's always like a deeper reason. Things aren't working because something else is supposed to happen.
It's that whole,
Let it go, but also I think will ride in our daily life, we ride this roller coaster. Something happens that doesn't go as planned, and do we allow it to let us dip down in the roller coaster, get pissed off, and try to take action from here to fix it? Or can we stay here and trust that, okay, that wasn't supposed to happen. Now what is?
So I dip. I am going down in the hole. I am
Mhm.
going down there and I'm coming from and then it's hard to build,
Yes.
to come back out to, whether it's a depression or an anger or whatever it might be, it's hard to come out of that place to get back to level so you can get back to being who you are. So you're telling me I have to stay up here. I have to try and stay more balanced.
I mean, it's probably unrealistic to expect everybody to always be here, but to maybe there's less of a dip.
Yeah.
There's less of a roller coaster. And one of the things that I always practice is when you notice yourself, you're bothered by something, or something happens, when you begin to notice yourself dip, I do something called a pattern interrupt, which is what is something you can do that will bring you out of that dip. It's something that fills you up or kind of shocks your system into keeping or raising your vibration. So for me, that's like a really cold shower. Some people, it can be 10 push-ups, visualization, if you're able to visualize. And if you're not in a place, like if you're at work and you can't do 10 push-ups, maybe a visualization can help. But to interrupt the pattern of this roller coaster all the time.
I like that. It's like stopping the spiral.
Yeah, exactly. Stopping the spiral. Because once you get to the bottom, it's really hard to get back up. And if we can kind of do something in the middle to recognize or to get ourselves out of the down spiral, it's really helpful. And then over time, you'll notice that you're less triggered by things, or you have to do the pattern interrupt less.
So I'm sure you've got, women that will say to you that they're feeling like a fraud or that they're comparing themselves to others or all of the things that fall under some imposter syndrome type things. What advice do you give them when they're telling you they're not feeling like themselves? Or do you run into that?
I think the important thing that you say at the end is when they're not feeling like themselves. And I would not so much focus on the feeling of like, what can we do about it? It's how can we work with you to have you feeling most authentic and most like yourself? What are some of the activities that bring you back to who you are and can move forward from there?
I'm a huge believer in hype girls and supporting one another and that sort of thing. So I guess it falls into the kind of the same thing, coming in and being supportive of those that are going through a challenging time.
Yeah, I think community is incredibly important, no matter where you are, whether if that's on a healing journey or in your business, surrounding yourself with people who believe in you, but also who expect more from you. Because I think sometimes we put ourselves in communities where it's really comfortable. Everyone is experiencing the same thing. So we'll get together and we'll talk. I don't want to say talk shit, but do nothing to support ourselves and helping ourselves get out of the situation we're in, or like transmute the feelings that we're experiencing. So we join a community that's really comfortable. And what is that community doing for you? Is it expecting more of you? Is it helping you evolve? Is it helping you push? So oftentimes when I enter a community, I enter the room with people who I'm like, am I supposed to be here? At the beginning of my business, I would enter the room with people who were doing things that I want to do, or the life that I want to live, or have experienced or walked some of the things that I hope to in my life. And even though you're like, what the hell am I doing here? Your nervous system can then calibrate to what these people are doing and experiencing. And eventually you raise the bar for yourself.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, otherwise, if you don't have higher expectations within those communities, then you're just enabling one another.
Yeah.
Just status quo. We're all going to just continue to talk shit and never move beyond what we're in there to deal with.
Yeah. So making sure you're in the right community and that it's really supporting you, I think is incredibly important.
And I think that's something that happens when you're in growth mode, is that your friendships change, your friends change, your circles change.
Mm-hmm.
That can be really confusing when it's happening, but once you're out of it, you can see why that's happening.
Mhm.
Changing of adult friendships for me has been very challenging.
It is challenging. It's hard. I mean, they're like breakups.
Yeah.
You know, they're like that male, female for me. Partner breakup is when I lose a friend.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they also, oftentimes what can happen is a certain amount of grief when you are evolving and you choose to grow. Like I've decided that I grow 1% every single day, but when you choose to grow and the people who you've been surrounding yourself with all of this time then see a new person, they're grieving the person that they knew. And sometimes it can create this really strange dynamic in the relationship. And you do have to either leave the relationship or they have to get on board with who you're becoming.
Are you looking to up your social media game? Social media can be intimidating and overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be. At Every Day on Branding, we truly believe that every day is an opportunity to showcase your brand through authentic and aligned social media strategy and content. Whether you're looking for done-for-you social management or monthly strategy sessions, the team at Every Day on Branding can help you reach your ideal audience in a way that feels aligned and drives conversion. If you'd like to have the Imposter Sisters come into your business and help you and your team get comfortable creating social media content, ask us about our new Keen to Screen program, a value-packed social media training for anyone that is looking to up their social media presence either as a solopreneur or to empower their team to be impactful brand ambassadors.
Talking about friendships,
Mm-hmm.
it's tough as an adult to find like-minded people, to find your friends, to find your people. Do you have any tips for that?
I think being willing to be vulnerable and put yourself, it's going to take a few tries. For me, it often takes a few putting myself in different spaces and just being vulnerable and being willing to open up about what you're experiencing then will allow certain people to connect with you. So even if you're in a community or a group and you are vulnerable, oftentimes you usually meet one person. You don't often connect with every single person in the group, but you have a really great connection with a single person. And from there, you can build your own community, or you can also find spaces with people that are like you.
For sure.
Yeah, I think for me, when that happens, it gives me an indication of the type of people I want to look for
Mm-hmm.
and the types of rooms I want to be in.
Yeah.
And then it also, and conversely to that, the types of rooms I do not want.
Yes.
Well,
That's also very helpful information.
yeah, I find that more than often is these are the rooms I don't want to be in more than the rooms I want to be in. And I think sometimes you just need to know a little bit about who you are.
Yeah.
And what you're
as
looking
well.
for. I
Yeah.
think.
So online has allowed people to build
Mhm.
some online communities.
Yeah.
So talk to us about, do you create a Facebook community? Have you done some of that sort of stuff?
So for me, my business is kind of 50-50. So I'm 50% artist and artwork, and through my artwork and learning how to support people, I also moved into experiences as well. So once a year, I will hold a retreat, and a lot of people think that these retreats are meant for other artists because I am an artist. And sometimes we get into this idea that if you are an artist, then you should be teaching people how to make or sell art. But for me, it's more about guiding people through the journey that they're on and helping them discover who they are along their healing journey, and also providing the support for them throughout that. So with the retreat, we often have a few guests who come in and we'll do healing experiences. Maybe it's sound healing, or it's breath work, or a photography ritual. And I really just love creating and fostering a safe environment. And that's one thing that I realized at the beginning that I was really good at naturally, was creating a safe space for people. So when people came in to view my artwork and they were sharing all of this information with me, I didn't realize it was because I was able to quickly create a safe environment for them. So then when people come to experiences, watching how quickly they open up and are able to move through things is really beautiful. So I often offer one-to-one support at the retreat as well. It's in a group setting, but we have the opportunity for you to work and shift through the limiting beliefs or the psychosomatic illnesses or the reoccurring patterns in those moments.
When is your next one?
In
June.
yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so I believe we're already over half full. So we still have a few spots left.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Link it in the show
Yeah.
notes.
Okay.
Put it in
Well,
the
I say
show-
that, Colleen writes them. She'll link it.
I'll put it in the show notes.
Okay. I'll remind you when I'm editing.
There you
Put it
go.
in the show
Put
notes.
those in the
Yeah.
show- yeah,
And I
Alex,
wanted
this-
to be able to provide people with the opportunity who are maybe not ready to jump into the retreat experience, but who wanted to get a taste of things and if it's the right community for them. So I have started creating a monthly community, which will be available and you'll be able to register for once this has aired. It does not yet have a name, but the idea is that we meet once a month on a Sunday, the last Sunday of the month. And it will be different things. So I'll be able to, again, bring breath work to you through other people. So bringing some of my favorite healers and healing modalities to you, but also then we'll have times where I'm able to answer questions and work one-on-one with you through things. So it's really just an opportunity for you to meet people, but then find different ways and different healing modalities that best fit you without having to invest fully, steeply, I guess is the word.
Yeah.
So it's $65 a month. And
But you know, as you stated from the very beginning, you didn't pay your bills 1 month. You
Yeah.
took your bill money 1 month to invest in
I
you.
did.
So
yes, that's something I really believe in. Is
Yeah.
If you're wanting to really experience change in your life, you also have to be willing to sit in the uncomfortable and invest in yourself. And it's not always easy. We're not taught that investing in ourselves is something that is normal or celebrated, but now it's something that I make sure I do.
you know what I really like right now is that this podcast episode, somebody is driving down the road right now, listening to the podcast episode, and they're going to find you
Mhm.
and they're going to join your group, or they might go on your retreat,
Mhm.
and it could be life-changing for them. Yeah.
That's why I'm really grateful for the opportunities to speak in different places or to share a part of my story, because it often collapses time for people to get to know you, and then they feel safe from just listening to a podcast and want to join your spaces or purchase your artwork.
Yeah. Oh,
Awesome.
I like that. Okay, let's speed round.
What does that mean?
Let's go speed round.
We ask you 5 questions
Oh, gosh.
and you
Okay.
try to answer them in 1 word or less. Fun way that we end the episode.
Okay.
Yeah. Last 5 quickies.
All right. Are we ready?
Okay.
If you had a time machine, would you go to the past or the future?
Oh.
Yeah, we didn't say they were easy.
Neither. Maybe the past. I don't think I'd want to skip over time.
If you were a superhero, what would your superpower be?
Seeing people.
Coffee or tea?
Tea. Big time.
If you had to describe yourself in 3 words, what would they be?
Brave. Maybe just one. Brave. I don't know the other 2.
I'd also say creative,
Yes.
intuitive.
Yeah.
So
those are
just a couple
okay.
in the last
Thanks.
20 minutes of knowing you. What's your favorite way to relax and unwind? I mean, we kind of touched on some of this through the episode, but
Walking on the beach with my dog.
that's a great one.
It's lovely to meet you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you have a really peaceful energy. You
I
have a
appreciate
very
that.
lovely,
It's something I
demeanor.
work on often. So
yeah. Well, you're doing a good job at it.
I'm
thank
so
you
much
very much.
calmer.
I am calmer too. I'm gonna try and stay out of those dips.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a fun practice to catch ourselves, to catch our triggers and to
Pattern interrupt.
I'm gonna
Love
be
that.
taking a
Definitely
lot,
going to
taking a
we're
lot
gonna
of
keep
cold,
that.
lot of cold showers.
Thank
All
you
right,
very much.
thank
All
you.
right, cheers. Cheers. I really liked her. I thought she was sweet. Her demeanor, like I wasn't kidding at the end when I said there's a real peacefulness.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. She's very calming.
Yeah.
You know, her approach to her art and then eventually to the counseling and community, it was just all really holistic.
I felt like I could keep talking to her and learn a lot about who I am. And like she was just like a really cool counselor, like you could
Yeah.
get into learning a little bit about yourself and some thoughtful things to think about,
There's a couple things that she said that really kind of stuck with me. And one was that pattern interrupt, when you're feeling overwhelmed or a lot of self-doubt. The second thing was how she overcame perfectionism, like with the unstructured drawing and then leaning into surrender. I found that really interesting and impactful.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting as well. I liked her conversation around friendship. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, and it's so timely too, because I think a lot of people, at least from what conversations that I've had and seen online, that the ending of adult friendships is something that's not really talked a whole lot about, but it is really impactful. And I think something that should be talked more about.
It's
And-
normalized. And also knowing your value conversation. We need to dig into that more. We need
Yeah.
to talk about that more.
I agree.
Yeah.
Not tonight though, I'm tired.
No, I'm kind of tired too. It's really nice to meet somebody like, yeah,
And definitely go check out her art because she's very talented.
beautiful work. I would like to have a piece on my wall at some point when I have an extra $15,000 laying around. Although all of her artwork is not that expensive, but boy, oh boy, she's got some beautiful stuff.
Yeah, I'm gonna go check it out.
All right.
You should too.
You should too.
Thanks for listening.
We will
See you next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday.
Thanks so much for tuning into this episode of Imposter Sisters. Please remember, we're not doctors or mental health experts. If you're looking for mental health guidance, please see our show notes for local resources. We'd like to thank our location sponsor, the Mellow Mug, located at 64 Delridge Lane, for donating this amazing space for us to have these important chats and for supplying us with drinks and goodies. Please give them a follow and make sure to stop in to see this beautiful spot for yourself. Until next time, keep your head high and we will see you next Tuesday.
One of the ways to combat imposter syndrome is to actually listen to how awesome the people in your life think you are. If you're looking for the perfect gift for a loved one, where you can tell them all of the things that make them special, visit my Drawbridge Creative Etsy shop and purchase a Things We Love About You custom poster. With several styles to choose from, it's a fabulous gift for any milestone birthday, anniversary, retirement, or just because.